Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Order in the court. Be seated.
It's time for Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt. Todd Marquardt, attorney at law in Texas. If you're a millionaire or a thousandaire, Talk Law Radio is now on the air. Call in with your business law question, your elder law question, veteran aid, Medicaid, build a business to get paid. 210-308-8867. Or ask a question online at marquardtlawfirm.com. That's MARQUARDT lawfirm.com. And now it's Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. Today we're going to be talking about the law on the radio like I do every week. And today's subject is new laws that have been introduced in the federal government, the House of Representatives or the Senate or the Texas legislature. But before we start talking about the law, I want to remind you about how I came up with the idea for the show, which is in the beginning, God had one law: don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And now we have city, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop making new laws that might impact you without you knowing it. So tune in to Talk Law Radio on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word. Also podcasts everywhere, Facebook and YouTube. You can find archived episodes as well on talklawradio.com. And today I'm going to be focusing on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. You're probably sick of hearing about it on the news. Well, I'm not going to give you any political spin about it. I'm just going to talk about what happens if it does get passed, what happens if it does not get passed. So let's get into it. But before we start, I'm going to say a prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the gifts and blessings that you give to us. Please forgive me for my sins, for my mistakes, for doing the wrong thing or failing to follow your will. Please help me to do a good job giving the listeners information about new laws with the federal government or the state government. Help us to do everything we do for the good of your people, for our own good and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Now it's time to discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. Have you heard of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act? Of course you have. Everybody's probably heard about it on TV, on the internet, on your newsletters, or by listening to talk radio. Well, I want to tell you about why this bill is important, because there's going to be consequences if it passes and the president signs it. There's going to be consequences if it's not passed. And it all started with the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which actually reduced income taxes. I'll give you some examples. Prior to 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, somebody earning between $9,000 and $38,000 a year as an individual would have to pay 15% income tax. After the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that was reduced to 12%. So if that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires at the end of 2025, so January 1st, 2026, if nothing's done, if the Senate doesn't pass the House version of the bill, if the president doesn't sign it, everybody's income taxes are going to go up. You're going to pay a higher rate. Here are some other examples. If you're paying 22% now, if the new One Big Beautiful Bill Act does not get passed, your income tax rate is going to go up to 25%. If you pay 24%, it's going to go up to 28%. If you pay 32%, it's going to go up to 33%. The 35% tax bracket, that stays the same. The rate anyway stays the same, but if you earn more than $426,000, your rate is going to go up to 39.6%. So that's a big jump there. And I won't get into married filing jointly, but those people, they will pay, you will pay more higher taxes. I'm just trying to wrangle Lexi. I don't know why she's walking around. Usually she takes a nap when I start talking. Lexi Law Dog is my guest today, and she doesn't like to sit still in a chair. She was in my lap, but she jumped down as soon as the show started. So hopefully she'll take a nap. Something else that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did is it increased the federal estate tax exemption. The federal estate tax is the death tax, the inheritance tax, and prior to 2017, the estate tax exemption was around $5 million. This year, the exemption is $13,990,000. If the one big beautiful bill is passed and signed into law, that exemption will increase to $15 million. So if you leave less value, assets valued less than $15 million after the one big beautiful bill is passed, you won't have to pay federal estate tax, death tax, or inheritance tax, which is all the same thing. People just call it different things. Now, people are still writing about it in the news, and so from time to time, people have been asking me about what happens if the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is not passed. There are some strategies to help reduce your estate tax liability legally, ethically, and morally. You just have to see an attorney. I'm going to give you some of the ideas I learned last year from continuing education. But you can also listen to that archived show, which was on air and recorded on September 28th, 2024. We're also going to be talking about some Texas laws. I just want to remind you that this is Talk Law Radio, where we help you discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. If you have friends or family members that are worried about increased income taxes or losing the high federal estate tax deduction, you should have them listen to Talk Law Radio. I also talk about all kinds of other things, sometimes dealing with the gospel of Jesus Christ and how that affects or shapes our laws nowadays. I also like to talk about the federal Constitution, which protects our constitutional rights to do things, and I want to help people know what their rights are so that we can exercise our rights. You know what happens if you don't exercise? Well, you have to exercise your rights too, so that the government doesn't trample on them. So if you want to comment about your constitutional rights, or if you want to comment about what it would be like if your income taxes were increased, or what you don't like about the One Big Beautiful Bill, you can comment live on Facebook right now. Today is Saturday, May 31st, 2025. If you're watching later on YouTube, post a comment. Let me know what you like or what you don't like about the show. Just please do so in a respectful manner. And if you want to, you can even go to talklawradio.com and you can give me some ideas on what you'd like to learn about there. There's a button where you can ask to sponsor the show, or you can ask to be a guest. I'm always looking for good content. I like to talk to people about the issues of the day. And if you like to talk about issues, I'd love to hear from you. You can always email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST at talklawradio.com. Let me know if there are some laws that are confusing or upsetting to you, if you're being regulated, if your business is facing some hard times because of government regulations or laws, we can talk about that as well. I have to take a break. When I come back, we'll talk about some strategies if you have to pay estate taxes. Stay tuned.
Don't wait until it's too late. Spring is here and it's the perfect time to review and update your last will or living trust. Have you recently moved, have changes in your health, or had a change in your family? If so, your current documents may be outdated and ineffective. Don't risk your wishes not being protected. At Marquardt Law Firm, our experienced attorneys can help you update your documents and ensure your future is secure. Call today at 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278, or visit marquardtlawfirm.com.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. In the beginning, there was one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. Now we have city, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws that impact you without you knowing it. So listen to Talk Law Radio, where I help you discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. Today, we're talking about new laws proposed with the federal government or the state government, Texas. And I briefly introduced the One Big Beautiful Bill, and we're going to talk about some strategies to avoid federal estate taxes. But I have to give you the disclaimer that information I give you today is not legal advice. You can only get legal advice after you sign an attorney-client agreement with an attorney and pay him a fee. But the state bar does want attorneys to inform the public about the law. So I can say what the law is. I just can't say whether you would benefit from it personally, because your personal legal advice is tailored to your specific facts and circumstances. I know you hate hearing disclaimers, but I have to do it. I'm going to talk about what the White House was saying about the One Big Beautiful Bill. It increases pass-through deduction for small businesses. It raises the small business tax deduction from 20% to 23%. It makes permanent those individual tax reductions that I talked about in the first segment. If you missed the first segment, go to YouTube, search for Talk Law Radio, look for the Lady Justice logo in the red, white, and blue, and subscribe to Talk Law Radio. Mark will edit this video and he'll post that to YouTube later on this week. Short story is that if the One Big Beautiful Bill Act does not pass, then the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act law will expire at the end of 2025. Everybody's income tax rate will go up, and some of those income tax brackets will be narrower. Something else the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is supposed to do is restore 100% bonus depreciation for expensing capital investments, allowing small businesses to immediately deduct the full cost of equipment and property, encouraging reinvestment, expansion, and modernization that will boost productivity and help small businesses, manufacturers, and contractors. There's enhanced research and development expensing. allows small businesses to engage in domestic research and development, expensing research and development costs, which will help small businesses stay ahead of competition. And you've probably also heard about this in the news: no tax on tips or overtime pay. Now, it's not magic. There are limits to that. I don't have the specifics right in front of me, but you can't just take all of your salary as a tip, for example. I was thinking that maybe I would just provide free legal services and work for tips, but then I saw some of the fine print in that law. It's not every dollar that you earn that you get to deduct. There's going to be an expanded standard deduction, simplifying tax filing, reducing taxable income for small business owners. It has tax credits and deductions tied to domestic content, manufacturing, and U.S. employment, designed to encourage companies to produce things in the U.S. instead of offshore. So those are some things that the White House thinks are good. There are some criticisms. You may have been hearing in the news that millions of people are going to lose their medical benefits because of cuts to Medicare or Medicaid. I think that's a generalization. And whenever you hear journalists and reporters generalize about something, you should probably do your own research, because they're probably leaving something out, or they're not telling the whole truth about the fact of the matter. But I did want to give you a heads up about what could happen. There is a fear that if the federal deficit gets to be too high, some say that the tax cuts in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act will lead to a larger deficit. I think that ignores the possibility that people will be earning more money because the economy will be stronger, and they'll be paying higher taxes because they're earning more money, not because they're being taxed at higher rates. So that's part of what journalists and reporters ignore, is the economics of it all. Something else that could happen, though, is there is a pay-as-you-go regulation to Medicare and Medicaid. Some of the benefits that are paid out could be cut because of sequestration, which is just like an automatic stop funding those programs type of thing. But that assumes that Congress doesn't make any exceptions for that, which they're allowed to do, which they've done before. Well, I know you're sitting on your hands, trying not to get upset with me for not talking about strategies that might help somebody reduce their estate tax liability legally and ethically. And so I do want to get into some of those. Now, a lot of people want to do things the easy way, and they just want to give away their property. And so just consider these ideas. If you want to reduce your income tax, take a job that pays less money. Nobody would really want to do that. They want to have their cake and eat it too. If you want to pay lower property taxes, let your home fall into disrepair. And then you can argue with the appraiser's office about how it's not worth what they say it's worth. Well, nobody would want to do that either, because they don't want to live in a place that's falling down. If you want to pay lower estate taxes, give away all your money, but don't give away too much, because then what's your lifestyle going to be like if you have less money? Now, that's why I say don't give away too much, because you can decide what you want to live on. And your kids and your beneficiaries, they would love to receive money and assets from you now while you're still alive, I'm sure. There could be tax consequences to them. You know, if you give them a highly appreciated asset, uh, they get your tax basis, your cost basis, and if they ever sell that asset, then they're going to have to pay capital gains. So the definition of gift is property transferred for less than adequate and full consideration. Some people say, well, can I just sell my property for $1 or $10 or $100? And the answer is, can you do that? Yes. But there will be a gift tax, at least report that needs to be filed, the difference between the actual value and the reduced value that you actually sold it for. The difference between those things is going to be considered a gift. And if you make gifts, it's okay. Sometimes you have to tell the IRS about it, and sometimes you don't. The annual exclusion amount for 2025 is $19,000 per person per year. You can give more. If you do give more, then you should file a 709 gift tax report and report to the IRS how much you're giving, because that will reduce your estate tax exemption, your lifetime estate tax exemption. And feel free to call in if you have questions. I'm live today, Saturday, May 31st, 2025. You can call 210 308 8867, 210 308 8867. I'm in the Central Time Zone, San Antonio, Texas. If you call in because you're watching on YouTube, I won't be available to answer because I'm not here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm just here on Saturdays. I have a recorded show that comes on Sundays at 4:30 in the afternoon. And of course, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, podcasts everywhere. And you can find archived episodes on talklawradio.com. Another thing that you can do is establish a family limited partnership. Family limited partnerships are limited partnerships filed with the Secretary of State that are where your family members are the limited partners. And the whole philosophy behind it is to create a company that does have a business purpose, that holds assets, and immediately by being in a small business that's not marketed, it's not traded on the stock exchange, it's not marketable because nobody would want to buy into your family partnership, limited partnership. The company as a whole is valued less. Now, there's lots of regulations to define how the IRS is going to scrutinize your company and how they're going to value it. Just know that that's something you should ask your lawyer about if you want to. You might reduce your estate tax liability by doing something like that, but there are lots of pitfalls. You definitely have to have an attorney to get through it. Another thing that some people do with family limited partnerships is they will year after year transfer some part of the ownership, let me back up. The older generation, the parents, will transfer some part of their ownership in the limited partnership to their beneficiaries or children a year after year in increments of $19,000 in value, because that's the annual exclusion amount. And so by giving away a piece of the company every year, that makes the parent, older generation share of the company worth a little bit less. So I hope I explained that. I know it's somewhat complicated and I jumbled it up a bit, but If you call an attorney or if you call Marquardt Law Firm, we'll be able to explain it a little bit better. Another thing that you can do is establish irrevocable life insurance trust. Uh, it requires buying life insurance, and I know some people hate the idea of life insurance, or they don't want to pay premiums. But it is a way to save money. It is a way to build wealth, and it is a way to make sure that your kids don't have to sell the family farm or the ranch in order to pay the federal estate tax after you pass away. We have to take another break. I've been talking about new laws, new Texas laws, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and some strategies to limit your liability for federal estate tax purposes. There's more to come, so stay tuned.
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I've been talking to you about new laws, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that's been proposed that will make permanent the tax cuts of 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and what happens if the One Big Beautiful Bill is not passed, and what happens, what strategies you can employ to reduce your federal estate tax liability. Since this is the third segment, we like to talk about the saints and sinners.
I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint. I do not feel ashamed.
I love that song, talking about being a saint and a sinner. All of us are both saints and sinners. At least that's what Martin Luther and Meredith Brooks say. So the theory is that we're all born sinners, and that we're forgiven and absolved because of Jesus's death and resurrection. So I'll talk a little bit about my faith and the gospel in the next segment, the legacy segment. The saint for today is a gentleman who was reported in the San Antonio Express News. His name is retired Colonel Edward Young Jr. And when he was a young man, he was in the military, and he was about to be promoted. He was among 15 men who were candidates to become second lieutenants in the Air Force. 5 of the candidates, including him, were black and the others were white. Young was disturbed when the commandant said white officers would be commissioned in the officers club and black officers would be commissioned in the service club. Young raised his hand. This is what I love about this story, is that he raised his hand. And so I think that's how we create legacy, is we stand up, we raise our hand, we speak out about the values that we have. We do things. That's how people are going to remember you, by what you do, not by you just watching TV on the couch. I mean, they might remember that you were a couch potato, but I don't at least want to be remembered that way. I want to be remembered for doing things, for helping people. I've been reading Mahatma Gandhi's biography that he wrote himself. It's a great book. I learned about him in school, like we probably all have, about how he was on a fasting diet, a hunger strike. But his story is much more interesting than that. I didn't know that he was a lawyer. Yeah, so he has a pretty great legacy, and people would call him a saint as well. The sinner for this week, I read, I think it was the Express News also. If I got that from another source, forgive me. Anyway, there was a lawsuit between a sports memorabilia collector and a shop that sold sports cards and collectibles. And what happened is the collector gave this shop owner some of his memorabilia to take to a show. I think it was in Dallas, Fort Worth, or somewhere, on consignment. That means you're going to sell my stuff, and then you're going to take a cut as a commission, and you're going to give me most of the money back. Well, that didn't happen. So the collector filed a $200,000 lawsuit against the owner and his business, Sports Cards and Collectibles. In the suit, the collector accused the business owner of not returning several expensive items, including approximately 600 sports cards, 4 Rolex watches. And the reason that I say that the business owner is a sinner is because he didn't fulfill the terms of the contract, and he didn't give the guy his property back. So if you give your property to somebody to sell on consignment, if they don't sell it, they're supposed to give it back to you so that you can figure out another way to sell it. And so I just wanted you to know what could happen. In this case, the business owner lost the lawsuit, and the sheriff came and seized uh, his business property, his inventory, so that it could be auctioned off to pay back the collector that deserved something back. You can't just keep my property and not give me any of the money. I don't know what happened in that business owner's head to make him think that he could get away with doing nothing for the guy. And so you can look this up in the news. I just wanted to bring it to your attention in case you ever decide to sell your stuff on consignment, or in case you're a business owner. You know, if you don't fulfill the terms of the deal and there's a lawsuit and you don't defend yourself, then somebody's going to probably seize your assets. Let me talk about some of the Texas laws that I have heard are passing in the Texas House and the Texas Senate and are on their way to the governor's desk. By the time you hear this or learn about this, it might be already passed. But one of those things is Texas Senate Bill 1596, which would legalize short-barreled firearms under state law. Now, the federal law defines short-barreled rifles as rifles with barrels shorter than 16 inches or shotguns with barrels shorter than 18 inches. And they're already legal under federal law. You just have to have a tax stamp in order to have it under the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act. But of course, the one big beautiful bill that has passed in the House has a provision to reduce that tax to zero. So we'll see what happens. The Senate has to look at the one big beautiful bill act and decide if they want to make any changes to it. If they do make changes to it, then it has to go back to the House. House has to approve the changes. If they do, then it goes to the president for his signature. So I wondered, do you think it's okay to have a short-barreled gun? You can post right now on Facebook Live in the comments section on May 31st, Saturday, or you can call the radio show right now at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. This is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. We're talking about laws that might impact you without you knowing it. And so by learning about the law from me, you can at least start your journey of doing something about it. So in the first and second segments, I talked a lot about the income tax consequences if the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is allowed to expire at the end of 2025. Your income taxes will probably go up. And so how will you deal with that? If you want your senator, your congressman to make sure that the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passes and the president signs it, maybe you should call them. I think that it's easy to find information about your senators and representatives these days. You just Google it. Who is my representative? There's a website for you to enter your street address. They will tell you exactly who your representative and senator is. Call them and say, Todd Marquardt from Talk Law Radio told me to call you. You can decide what you want them to do about it. Oh, we have a caller. We're about to go to break. But maybe we can get a question in before the break. That would be really interesting. Maybe they want to talk about whether or not it's okay to have a short-barreled rifle. Back in the olden days, they were outlawed because of the effects of it. Are we going to be able to talk to this person? Oh, okay. Sometimes people call during this show when really they want to talk to the host of the next show about plants. You can call me and talk about plants. I just might not be able to answer your question. I have my own struggles with plants at my house. But speaking of plants, we did plant some uh, bushes that are supposed to repel mosquitoes. I was sitting on my front porch this morning watching the sunrise, and I did see a mosquito. So I don't think that they're foolproof. I think the best way to get rid of mosquitoes is by pesticide, which have its own downside. Chemicals and pesticides cause all kinds of health problems. But this is Talk Law Radio. I have to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about legacy. Stay tuned.
Don't wait until it's too late. Spring is here and it's the perfect time to review and update your last will or living trust. Have you recently moved, have changes in your health, or had a change in your family? If so, your current documents may be outdated and ineffective. Don't risk your wishes not being protected. At Marquardt Law Firm, our experienced attorneys can help you update your documents and ensure your future is secure. Call today at 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278 or visit marquardtlawfirm.com.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Lexi Law Dog, who's taking a nap, and we're talking about new laws, new federal laws, new Texas laws, and how they might impact you. And so in the first segment and second segment, we talked about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and we talked about some strategies for reducing federal estate tax liability if the One Big Beautiful Bill Act fails to pass. And we talked about the income tax consequences if that law fails to pass, because the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will expire at the end of 2025, and it will impact you either way. And so you might want to prepare for income taxes or estate taxes. And I do have a caller on the phone, and Mark's trying to get him to talk with me on the air. But later this segment, we'll be talking about legacy. And you probably do know that Father's Day is coming up. I'm not going to be talking about Father's Day next week because I'm going to be having a pre-recorded show during that time, because I'll be hunting wild feral hogs with my two sons and their friends. But something good about Father's Day is it always reminds me about the Bible verse regarding the prodigal son. Can we do the Saints and the Legacy Spotlight? So this,
And now it's
Here
time
we
for the
go.
Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
So I'd like to talk about legacy because Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm focus on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. And the central theme of all those things is legacy. How am I going to be remembered? And as I was thinking about my father and my two grandfathers and all the clients that I see every day, every week, and every month and every year, is that you either have a legacy of that person's affairs were in order, or they have a legacy of leaving a legal mess. And so you probably don't want to do that. You don't want to leave a legacy of a legal mess, which is your heirs have to go through a complicated court process. You have to have evidence and testimony in legal proceeding in front of a judge just to prove that they're related to you so they could inherit what you wanted them to have anyway. A lot of times the legal mess is the wrong people get to inherit the property because it wasn't written down in a valid last will or living trust. Some legal mess that could happen is the family farm or the family ranch has to be sold to pay the federal estate taxes. Nobody wants to see that. But then it was also reminding me of the family relationships that we developed while we were alive. Are you going to be remembered for having a good family relationship or a bad one or something in between? And I was thinking about the relationships between fathers and sons. Fathers and sons and fathers and daughters don't always agree on everything. And does that cause a rift in the relationship? Does that cause um, the relationship to drift apart? I think that it's worth talking about. And I'm not a therapist. I just play one on TV. By the way, if you haven't heard about Todd's Tacos, search for it on Facebook. It's not under Talk Law Radio. Me as an individual, Todd Marquardt, will show you how to make tacos, and I'll talk about some of my wisdom. Okay, so back to the legacy segment. You have somebody on the phone? Oh, great. Okay, I just can't see it. Bert, you're live on the air. Tell me what
Hey,
you're
Todd.
thinking.
What I'm thinking is I'm very thankful that you have this program, and I say greetings, and because I've gained a great deal of insight since I've turned into my 60s on the senior laws and aspects of it, and I very well appreciate the insight that you give.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for the compliment. You have any question today?
Well, no, I'm going to call the law firm because there's something like you said about legacy I have to get involved with because I have nobody. I have a problem with the VAs with care because I don't have blood kin. And that's something about getting someone designated as a ward. I can call the law firm in the week about that. But I wanted to say I was very thankful that you had the two runoff candidates on 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And
Right.
Miss Jones, she just put the nail in the coffin the way she talked at you instead of with you. Mr. Pablo has got my vote for sure. And I wish more of them would come on when you had the series going on prior to the election.
Yeah, you'll notice that the guy that got third place refused to be on the show, and so I like to think that that's why he did so poorly in the polls.
Hey, well, I just never vote for politicians, especially if they're a career politician, because I see that nowhere in the Constitution. I'm all about term limits,
Right.
and I'm also about no gun regulations at all. You should be able to own whatever size barrel, caliber weapon you own. The Second Amendment, as far as I'm concerned, is our right to bear arms.
Well, thank you for exercising your right and for talking about it, and hopefully you tell others the same.
I always do. That's what you said. You must have character in this life, and it's like when you go to the grave, you got your birth date and your expiry date. And I like to ask people, what did you do with your dash? That line in between.
That's right. Well, I look forward to talking to you in person. Thank you for calling the show.
You're quite welcome, and keep it up. Keep up the good work, and never let your face. I mean, I know sometimes it does. Life is also not fair, like you said, with the father and daughter and the father and son. Life ain't easy neither.
Amen. Take care. Thanks for the call. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun talking to him about him complimenting me. That was really cool. And then also him talking about the mayor's race. He must be watching every week. That's terrific. And I'm really glad that he exercises his constitutional rights. I look forward to getting to know him a little bit better. So the gospel says something about fathers. And I have met people throughout my life that didn't have a relationship with their biological father, or had a relationship with their father that was very dysfunctional or unloving. And I'm sorry about that. You know, that's a tragedy that you had to endure. But I have heard pastors give sermons about that. And like I said, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a theologian. I'm just telling you what I heard, that God the Father, who is love, can be your surrogate father. Just think about it. Uh, if you need a father, I think God the Father is there for you. And at least that's what I believe. You might believe something different, but that's my belief. And I just wanted to say it on the radio because it's Father's Day. And if your biological father let you down, you still have a heavenly Father that you can honor this Sunday. And as you're thinking about your earthly legacy and how you want to be remembered, one way is to write a last will or living trust that designates where your assets, your property, your things are going to go. And you can leave them to whoever you want, subject to some community property limitations, only if you write it down. And you want to see a lawyer to help you with that and use the legal words that make those legally effective and enforceable. I heard a case study about a will that was self-written by an individual, and because of the punctuation, the court had required additional evidence required in order to get that will through the probate process. And so it could be something as simple as correct punctuation. And you don't want to use an internet will. Somebody asked me, what's the difference in cost between a lawyer written will and an internet will? And I said about $30,000, because that's what it might cost for a lawsuit to interpret that internet will. Because a lot of times people don't fill those out correctly. I talked with an individual some time ago who was trying to get his brother qualified for nursing home Medicaid. And I was trying to explain how to give the Health and Human Services Commission the information that they needed to approve the application. And I said, if you don't follow all of these steps to the letter, you don't dot your I's and cross your T's, they're going to deny the application. And so a lot of the work that we do in those matters is not interpreting the law as much as it is just making sure that everything's organized. And the same can be true for your estate. There's lots of advice that I give to people that just practically helps things to go smoother so that the transition is seamless. Well, I've been talking a lot about legacy because that's one of the focuses of our show, but I also implore you to listen to the first two segments of this episode where I talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which has been passed by the House of Representatives. The Senate is considering it. They might make changes. If they do, it goes back to the House. If it's passed, then the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act income tax cuts will be made permanent. I don't want my income taxes to go up. I think I already pay enough in income taxes. If you want to debate that, email me at host@talklawradio.com. Let me know what your thoughts are. Also, you can find me on YouTube subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you can watch those episodes anytime you want. I'm Todd Marquardt. This is Talk Law Radio. I'll talk to you later.